Hey, Justin here with Stay at Home Dad's podcast. Welcome to the place I talk about the many different things that go on here in my stay-at-home dad life. Things with my kids, my family, being a better father and a better husband, men's mental and physical wellness, parenting struggles I have. I also talk about parenting and life tips, things I come across reading books and online and talking to people. Lastly, things that I think about, things that I question, odd things that I come across, I come on here and I share with you. So I hope something in that mixed bag is educational or informative or enlightening in some way. But anyways, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for downloading today's episode. All right. I need to explain a little bit from 2 weeks ago, that episode I did on sports. I just want to expand on some of the thoughts I had on there. I'm not forcing my kids into playing a bunch of sports. I want to make that clear. I don't understand why us as parents kind of get into that mode, that forceful, maybe not always forceful, maybe it's just, play all the time and always promoting sports, maybe even when the kid doesn't want to do them. Now, I'm not saying that every parent does that, but I'm just saying I don't get involved in that. I kind of listen to my kids, and I hope everybody does, and if they say, hey, Dad, I hate this or I don't want to do it, then we pivot and we try to do something else, right? I also agree that, yes, sports are a great fundamental skill for kids. They're really important. They get used to relying on their team, playing and strategizing with other people, making new friends. It's also a great way to get your body moving in a variety of ways, right? A lot of different sports train the body in different movements. It's really great in that aspect. Also, I understand, if I didn't say it the other week, that I get it. Some kids absolutely love to play sports. They have that mindset to dedicate themselves to a game, to just play and want to be better and strive to win and be great and all that stuff. And that is awesome. I love that. I just think, like I just mentioned, that when your kid shows you that they're not into it, that we need to take that information, talk to them about it, maybe see what's going on, see if we can make it better, see what their concerns are. Tell them it's okay if tennis or XYZ is not their thing. That's okay. I don't want to be a parent that says, no, you have to do this. I do, and I am a parent that says, hey, you started the season. You need to finish the season. A, because, mom and dad ponied up some money for this. And B, your team is relying on you. We don't want to just get up and walk away. So I think that's a good teaching moment there as well. And plus, when your kids love a sport, they're going to play it whenever they can, right? They're just going to play with friends when they're outside, when they have any downtime. They're going to gravitate toward that thing. And I think that's how you know that they really do enjoy it. I think that's a good indication that they love that sport. Now, if they're not wanting to play it and they never want to really practice, then maybe we kind of catalog that in the information, category to bring up to them. So anyways, those are just some things that I wanted to clarify from a couple of weeks ago. I'm not hating on kids that play sports. I'm not hating on parents that have their kids dabble and do everything. Every family is different, and some kids love to play. Now, I do think it's kind of crazy when your kid's in tennis, and then they're done at tennis at 4, and shit, we got to run them over to play softball at 4:30, and then we have a dance recital at 7. You know what I mean? Like, that's a little much. I think that's a little crazy. I think kids, like I say all the time, they need to be kids. They need to do kid things. They need to be bored and play with their friends outside and use their imaginations. So, I'm a fan of less structure. I'm also a fan of sports. So I just want to be clear. And yeah, I do want my kids to be active and to play some sport. That's why I'm trying to manage what we're all trying to manage as parents. We're trying to sample a lot of things and see where they fit in. So see what they enjoy. That's what we all try to do, right? Now, to kind of go back to what I just said, if your kid is telling you they don't like it and they don't want to play, then what do you do? Like if your kid comes to you and says, I hate this, I hate it. I don't want to do it, Dad. I'm miserable. I'm crying. I'm upset. I think that's when we reevaluate, right? We adjust, change course. And sure, I know some things have to work out over time. They got to push through. They got to get over that hump. I mean, no kid likes playing something that they don't really understand how to play. So I think getting the time and the reps can change their minds to a certain extent. So I think there's that, you got to give some adequate time and just see how they do. But also forcing them to play something that they don't want or they even hate after playing it for a while, I don't think that's the best idea. I think they're going to burn out. I think they're going to end up hating the game, and it's not going to be fun for them anymore. And maybe they'll even resent you by forcing them to play this game that they clearly have voiced that they don't like. So anyways, that's just my 2 cents on that subject. I also posed the question, or I said the statement, that playing sports as a child and into college years is a waste of time. Now, as I edited the other week's episode, I was like, maybe I should clarify and add a few more points to that. I don't want to just blanket statement and just sound like an asshole, because that's not what I do here. Now, when I thought about it, I thought, if everyone had that mentality that sports are a waste of time and they don't want to do them, then nobody would play sports, right? There wouldn't be any sports. If kids aren't playing sports, and then teenagers aren't playing sports, and then on and on and on, right? If everyone said, wow, this is a waste of time, that would be it. So I'm not saying that it's bad or wrong to play sports as a kid. I already mentioned all this. I've already talked about it way too much. It's great for a lot of things, right? And even for some kids, it may be a saving grace, honestly. It may help them in really, really big ways. Belonging to something and being able to focus on something other than school, or maybe they have a troubling home life. I don't know. Give kids this team, this atmosphere, this sense of camaraderie with their teammates. It may even be the only place where that kid feels like they belong. Maybe they have a hard time in those other aspects in their life where they feel good at something. Like, hey, I'm good at baseball. And this is, that's like their zone. They love that and they feel good there. And who am I to say that that's wrong? It's just one of those things, after editing last week's show, I was like, yeah, I should probably expand. Every kid's different. And I have to realize that, right? Not every child is going to love playing sports. And I have to be good with that. And a lot of kids are going to love playing sports, and I have to be good with that as well. My daughter, she loves to read a lot. She reads and reads and reads, and she enjoys Girl Scouts and nature and building things, and she's talked about theater a little bit and plays. And she's also talked about volleyball and track and those other things. I know I've already talked about all this. So I just need to make sure that I emphasize her strengths and support her in the areas that she's passionate about. I took her to another practice and another game last week, and yeah, it was a basketball game, by the way, but yeah, it was tough. It was the same result, another loss, 39-3, and I don't know. I don't know. I cheered for her. I yelled for her from the sidelines. I was that crazy dad that was hooting and hollering while all the other parents are just sitting there. She did shoot a couple of free throws, and she actually made one. And I was stoked, and I took that little piece, that little win for her, and I emphasized that like a ton with her. I said, did you see what you just did? Like, you scored points for your team. And yeah, I understand you lost, and that's a little deflating, but you made a basket. And that helped her. That got her over the hump, and that helped her not be super emotional and upset about it. That, hey, you did something for your team. So that was pretty cool. And I think that's what I need to remember to do, is just emphasize those little things and the great things and the things she's doing right and the things that she is doing well in her game, and do less coaching. Not that I'm a coach, but less criticizing, I guess I should say, and more celebrating those little wins. So that's what I'm going to try to do. So why are kids' sports this way, though? And I know I don't want to rehash this all over again. I know I bitched and complained 2 weeks ago. But I watched her game this week, and I went to a few other practices, like I said, and she has a main practice. Now, let me explain a little bit. She has a main practice, and then later in the week, over the weekend, it's like Sundays, Saturdays, she does a skills building thing with like 16 other girls. Now, in both practices, the one with her league and the one that they do through the school, all the girls are pretty much on par with each other. They're all about at the same level with speed and dribbling and shooting and all that stuff. So when they go and play these other teams, how are these other teams so good? So above and beyond her teams and the people she's played with above their skill level. And it just turns out to a blowout every game. Now, do these other girls play 24/7? And like I mentioned at the top of the show, they love the game and they love what they do and they're just in it 110%? Do they practice more than once a week? Do the teams have tryouts maybe and they pick certain kids that are, standouts? I don't know. I'm just trying to navigate this and figure it out. But I don't know. Who am I kidding? I mean, we'll see, but I don't think my daughter is going to want to play after this season. So once the season ends here in a month or so, I don't think she's going to want to play anymore. I think she's going to want to take a little break. But see, when you take a break, then the other girls do keep playing, and then it just keeps expanding. So anyways, I'll get off my soapbox of bitching about this whole thing, and I'll move on to a different topic here. It's still in line with sports, particularly girls in sports. That's what I want to talk about. That's what the title of the show is about today. A while back, maybe a couple of months ago, actually it was over the Super Bowl weekend, there was a commercial on TV, and many of you probably saw it. It was an ad by Dove, and it states, it's kind of like a little song, it states that it's not the knocks, it's not being knocked down that stops girls from playing sports, it's the body confidence that does. Then this commercial gives out stats, or a stat that said 45% of girls quit sports by age 14. And I don't know, when I saw that commercial, I made a mental note, and I was surprised, and I made this mental note, and I was like, wow, that's a lot. That's a big number. Now, I don't think my girls are averse toward certain sports because of body confidence. That really hasn't happened yet. Sadly, I know that it eventually will, because when you get older and you're in middle school and there's more of that, I don't know what you call it. I don't want to just say bullying, but it's judging and pecking order and people saying things and kids teasing and making fun of clothes and shoes and bodies, all of which I am nowhere near prepared for, but I know that's coming, and that's sad to say that I know that, but it is. Middle school, high school, whenever it is, it's coming. Thankfully, it's not in elementary school yet, which I am thankful for, but maybe let me know if it's in your elementary school, if your kids are coming home and they have complaints about some of this stuff. I'd love to hear about it. But yes, anyways, hasn't happened yet. So I'm more focused on the other reasons that they may drop out of sports. Not entirely body confidence, but lack of knowledge, not knowing the sport themselves. They're confused about the rules or how to play, and then that deters them from playing. Is it difficulty? Is it too hard? They can't get say basketball, for instance. They aren't strong enough to get the ball up to the hoop. Is it the competition, like in my daughter's case, where they play a game and they constantly lose? That's pretty demoralizing, right? Is it not knowing anybody? I think that might be a reason. No friends to support them or do this experience with them. So that's what I want to find out. I want to find out kind of why girls drop out. Does it have any kind of detrimental effect? Or actually, maybe I should word that differently and say, what are the benefits of girls sticking with sports as they, go through school? And what are some ways that we can keep them playing? What are some ways that we can continue their development and still make it fun and enjoyable? So those are kind of the things I want to talk about. This probably is going to be a long episode because I'm already like 15 minutes in, and I haven't even started talking about the meat and potatoes yet. So anyways, let's get into this. So in my digging, I have found actually some really, really great information on sports, women's sports. It's a place called womensportsfoundation.org. They have a ton of stuff on this subject. I'm guessing that's kind of their bread and butter. They know this very well. They have a lot of other stuff that talks about getting young girls into sports and programs to help them and the ways to get girls active and a slew of other things like that. So if you're so inclined, I would recommend it. I'll link it in the description so you can read up on it. But yeah, check it out and just read some good articles, especially if you're a parent of young girls and you need some ammunition to talk to them about certain points and things that can help them out. So, according to WSF, by age 14, many girls are dropping out of sports at twice the rate of boys. And a survey by Women in Sports found that 43% of teenage girls who once considered themselves sporty actually dropped out of sports entirely by elementary school. So that is pretty alarming. My oldest daughter has one more year left of elementary, and then she's off to middle school, and it's going to be a whole new world for her. And it's scary. It sure is. So the WSF has actually identified some factors that are contributing to this trend. So I'm just going to kind of read through those and add my 2 cents here along with it. First one they say is lack of access. They say girls have 1.3 million fewer opportunities to play high school sports than boys have. And a lack of physical education in school and limited opportunities to play sports in school means girls have to look somewhere else to find those sports. I think being in elementary, my kids, options for boys and girls through the school anyways are pretty limited. Hence why my girls and my friends' kids are all playing these other leagues, whether it be soccer or baseball or basketball, that are not affiliated with the school at all. Now they do programs through the school, but it's not something like, oh, your kid goes to school all day on Tuesday, and then after Tuesday, they do a practice right there at school, and then you pick them up later or something like that. It's not really like that. They're more of like a skill building camp they do sometimes at the elementary school, sometimes at the high school. Volleyball has been at the middle school, so they kind of spread them around, but still it's not something that you typically just hop into right after school. Didn't sports when we were kids primarily be affiliated with school? From what I remember in my head, that's what I remember. But maybe because it's elementary, that's what I'm dealing with, and it's not quite happened yet. Maybe that'll happen in middle school. I'm betting it probably will. And that's probably the memory that I have from my childhood. Has anyone else just lost all memories from childhood? Like I have, and it's crazy. Like I can't remember a ton of stuff. I'm 41. I guess that was 20, 25, 30 years ago, so maybe that's why. But yeah, a lot of those old memories pushed out, I guess. But anyways, that's a topic for another day. But anyways, next factor here. Decreased quality of experience. WSF says as girls grow up, the quality and level of their sports experience may decline. Facilities may not be as good as the boys, playing times not as optimal. Also, the availability of quality trained coaches may be lacking in their community. Or, which I think is a bigger thing, is coaches may be more focused on the boys' programs that have more money and more training. Also, that the girls' programs may not be as equally funded as the boys. So the girls' ability to grow and enjoy the sport is being diminished. Basically, what they're saying is sports just aren't as fun as they used to be anymore. And in some respects, I agree with that. I really do. I think some coaches, and I'm not saying all coaches, I know a lot of coaches actually. I know a lot of rec coaches that are giving away their time for free and stuff like that. But I know some coaches can be more focused on the good team, the better team, boys or girls, than the team that maybe isn't as experienced or not as good. Let's just say it. You know, they just go through the motions because there's this thought that, hey, you know, this isn't going so well. Let's just go through the motions and go through the drills, and that's it, because this team's they're not gonna be competitive. So maybe they don't get that attention. Maybe they don't get to bond, which may sound weird. They don't get a bond with their coach as much as a team does that has more experience. Just my 2 cents there. Then they also talk about transportation issues and safety, costs, which, yeah, I see it. My wife and I see it. This basketball session, spring and summer, was like $1,000 or something like that for a basketball session. So yeah, if money is tight, a parent may be less willing to spend that kind of money on a kid that may not be the standout player or may not be super into it or maybe on the fence about it. The parents may not want to take a gamble on spending that kind of money for a maybe, you know what I mean? So yeah, that is a factor as well. Some other factors I found across the web are societal pressure and gender stereotypes. Society is full of messages on how girls should look and behave and prioritize their time, right? Traditional gender norms say that girls should prioritize other things, especially when you get older, maybe not so much in elementary, but when you get older, like prioritize your appearance or social relationships or academics over athletics. Then these girls feel this pressure and they may deprioritize or think athletics are less important, which athletics are very important. I know I kind of bashed them the other week, but as I've done research for today's episode, they're a big deal, and I think they're a positive thing that needs to be in young girls' lives, which I'll get into, I imagine, here in a little bit. But anyways, I also want to say that I have seen it go the other way as well, where parents or even the kids put athletics on top of everything else, right? And then academics suffers and all that stuff. So there has to be a balance, right? And I know some of this is for older kids. I know, like I said, my kids haven't really got to that point yet, but still a concern. It's coming up. I do remember in high school, hockey, kids that would not be doing great athletically, or not athletically, they would not be doing great academically. Their hockey coach would get on them about it because they needed to keep their grades up. They didn't just come to school just to play hockey. So it kind of went hand in hand. That, hey, yeah, you're a great hockey player, but you also need to make sure you're taking care of your studies as well. So, yeah, nice balance, like I said. Another one that I found on the web, which I'll link. I'm not stealing anybody's ideas here because I know nothing about this subject. That's why I'm doing this deep dive on it. I'm going to link everything that I am talking about, every source. It's going to be link heavy. Will be in the description so you can read it all. So another one is that body confidence. Like we mentioned about the Dove ad, kids' bodies change and it could make girls feel uncomfortable and insecure about participating in sports. And a negative body image can lead to low confidence and motivation to do said sport. And it can just drive girls to quit. They don't feel comfortable in their own skin. And then they're, putting on shorts or putting on a swimsuit for swimming or whatever. And they're in front of a lot of people. They're in front of essentially all their peers. It could make it a little bit difficult for them to want to continue to do that. So that is definitely something we need to keep in mind. Peer dynamics is another one. Peer pressure, bullying, like I talked about, little cliques in school, feeling excluded by teammates can really deter girls from participating or cause them to drop out altogether. If your team isn't cohesive, and I've noticed this about some of these teams I've seen, that the kids, the girls, they don't really talk to each other. They hardly know each other's names. There's cliques forming. There's BFFs forming. There's whatever. And then some girls are kind of left out. They don't feel like they're part of the team. That's a big deal that can cause girls to, cut and run. So keep that in mind too. So yeah, anyways, I know I've been rambling a lot. There's plenty of reasons that this is happening. And there's a bunch more that I didn't mention. There's actually a lot of material on this subject, so if you do a quick search, you're going to find a ton of it. Now, personally, I think another is coaching, and I know I already mentioned coaching a little bit earlier. When coaches are, in my opinion, more focused on their winning team, say it's a coach that coaches a lot of different teams, they're going to be more focused on the winning team, the standout players. And I believe that some kids, boys and girls, may not get the attention that they need to really grow in the sport. I think if girls don't feel as connected and part of their team and have a good connection with their coach, they're less apt to stick with it. If a coach is not, coming on the same level with them and really, I don't want to say hand-holding or anything like that, but if a girl feels left out by a coach, I think it has a bigger effect. From my perspective, let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I would love to hear from you, but that's just kind of what I think. And then, like I already mentioned, when I see so much disconnection between teammates and coaches that are also kind of disconnected, it's no surprise that kids aren't really loving the game. When a coach says, gosh, you guys forgot everything that we did in practice, like what's going on during the game, you're not creating a solid connection with your team. You're kind of almost talking down to them about how bad they're doing. And that's not going to, especially at a young age, that's not going to really prompt anybody to stick with it, right? It's also like if your coach or teammate doesn't see or care that you miss practice or miss a game. Maybe they notice, but they don't really say anything. I think that really takes a toll on a girl's self-esteem that, they didn't even notice I was gone. They didn't even care when I came back. They didn't say, oh, hey, we missed you last week. Where were you? Like, what happened? And build that self-esteem, that confidence up that, hey, you're part of this team and we need you. I think that's really, really important that the team, including my daughter and coaches, kind of step into that and do that a little bit more and make sure that these kids, boys and girls, know that, hey, you're a valued person of this team. No matter how the team does or how the team plays, I think that's really good to get across. Don't you think? That would make them feel valued and wanted and, make them want to keep playing. I think so. Also, I think this is one of my own I've kind of been struggling with is us as parents too, including myself. Maybe assuming that girls aren't as athletic as boys, or that girls can't handle or learn the games as well as boys, or even comparing girls to boys in sports, which, yes, I've kind of done, and I didn't really realize I was doing it, but the way I was saying stuff, just in hindsight, wasn't ideal. So, all right, so now that we know the why they drop out of sports, let's figure out a few things on why they should keep going and why they should stay in team sports and sports in general. So here's some more facts I'm going to rattle off at you from WSF, which, of course, I'll link it in the description so you can check it out. And I'm just going to read these. I just wrote them down. I don't really have a lot of ad-libbing to do in between these, so I'm just going to read them. Number 1, more than 3/4 of women working feel that sports participation helped enhance their self-image. That's a pretty good one. Number 2, girls' involvement in sports is related to higher levels of family satisfaction in both single-parent and dual-parent families. Number 3, high school female athletes have more positive body image than non-athletes. That's good. Number 4, girls active in sports during adolescence and young adulthood are 20% less likely to get breast cancer later in life. That's interesting. And I can't remember what link I read that fact from, but of course it'll be in there if you want to check it out. But that's pretty crazy that just playing sports as an adolescent, young adult has that effect. Number 5, high school girls who play sports are less likely to have an unintended pregnancy and more likely to get better grades. That is something all of us don't want to happen. So that's a scary moment. So yeah, huge reason to get your kid into sports, right? Number 6, through sports, girls learn important life skills such as teamwork, yes, leadership, yes, and confidence. We all want our kids and our girls to be confident young ladies, so that's good right there. Number 7, girls and women who play sports have higher levels of confidence and self-esteem and lower levels of depression. Kind of goes with that last one I read too. And by adolescence, many girls have dropped out of sports, and only 15% get enough physical activity to be considered healthy. That fact actually came from coachingher.com. Anyways, that's just a few reasons why we need to promote sports within our girls, right? And I could go on and on, really. There's a ton of these out there. There's a ton of different facts. I imagine you could think of some benefits off the top of your head thinking about your childhood and your kids right now. So yeah, it's a important part of life. I think also kids getting to know their bodies. I know I mentioned that earlier. Different sports tax the body in different ways, and kids really get to know how to move their bodies and how to function and all that. That's really good. Plus their potential to learn and reach goals. Big one there. So yeah, no doubt, it's a benefit. And I know I said in last week's episode, I'm kind of face palming right now, that who cares about sports and why all the emphasis? And well, I'm seeing that right before my eyes, right here. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of benefits to it. Now, lastly, how do we keep girls going? This is the last thing I want to talk about today. How do we keep them interested? How do we keep them playing? How do we keep them continuing to develop themselves and also have fun while doing it? So I found 5 factors for success on womeninsport.org to help us parents, help coaches, and other adults do just that for our kids, right? Number 1, surround your girls with expectation that they will succeed. Just assume that they will succeed. Parents, teachers, and peers must help change the narrative by showing that they value girls taking part in sport and expressing expectations that they will do well. Not that they might do well, not that you'll see how you do. No, assume that they're going to do well and they're going to enjoy it and they're going to excel. That's it. I can learn from this one for sure. In the past, I know I've said some stuff along the lines of, it's okay, you didn't do this or do that, or maybe this sport isn't necessarily for you, or some other, agreeing with my child about why she doesn't like it, and maybe, honestly, maybe that was the wrong approach. But also, it's hard when your kid's upset and they're saying how much they don't like it anymore, how they didn't beat the other team, or how they didn't play well. It's tough to say, oh yeah, you're going to do great, because they don't want to hear it. I get it. I understand where this is coming from. Plant that seed of success and change the narrative, but in times when they're down in the dumps, it can be tough. That's all I'm saying. All right, number 2, build girl skills early so there's a level playing field. They say encourage, expect, and support girls from a young age to master the fundamental skills they need to succeed in sports. Skills give sports meaning for girls, making competition fair and success more attainable. Build and sustaining self-belief is what they say. Now I understand that. I understand getting kids involved in sports at a young age. Get it done, get it started early. We want our kids to have that level playing field, like they said. But it's just like parents. You start this shit like earlier and earlier and earlier to get the edge, right? And how do you compete with that? So if a lot of people start their kid in sports at 4, then I need to start at 4, and then they want more of an edge, so then they want to start at 3, and then I've got, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think it's gotten a little bit out of hand, the get started early kind of motto, I guess. Like, did I need to start my kids in basketball and soccer when they were 3 years old? It's ridiculous to me. My daughter has played a decent amount of basketball in her short life on this planet. Granted, it's not year-round. It's not with every waking moment she's playing something, but I feel like she's had some good experience. And honestly, I think the mentality of getting kids in sports earlier and earlier is, in a way, what's ruining sports and probably burning kids out by the time they're in high school. And I know. More experience, the better that they're going to be and the better they're going to play. But there has to be a point where enough is enough, right? Like, you just can't keep going. I was reading this book and they were talking about homework. And this one kindergarten teacher said, oh yeah, we're doing homework. And the parent said, why in the hell are we doing homework in kindergarten? And the lady said, well, we just want them to be prepared for first grade. So they're going to be doing homework in first grade. We want them to be prepared for homework in first grade, so we're going to do homework in kindergarten. Well, where's the domino going to go? Now they're doing homework in kindergarten. Now do you need to do homework in pre-K? Because, well, you do homework in kindergarten, and we want to prepare you for kindergarten, so let's do homework in pre-K. You know what I mean? It just keeps going to where you're going to see them be an infant with a ball in their hand. I don't know. It's annoying, okay? It's annoying, bothers me. And I know I say that this is like a new thing, and I know it's not a new thing because I remember growing up, one of the vague memories that I do remember from my childhood, we were a hockey town, and there would be parents putting skates on their kids as soon as their kids could walk. They had skates on their feet. So I get it. It's, get them started young, yada, yada, yada. I understand. I don't have to agree with it, but it was just one of the things listed here in this article. So anyways, let's move on before I have a brain aneurysm or something like that. Number 3, don't dumb it down for girls. Stop the messaging of young girls being fragile, weak, and not liking competition. Instead, reinforce the expectation that they can be courageous, powerful, and fearless in their own way, and are expected to be, and can be good at sports. I've also made that mistake, not in a negative way, I don't think, but I still made it of comparing my kid level of play to other kids. Not from a mean place or a super comparative place, like, why aren't you playing like Timmy over there? It's nothing like that. But I would say stuff like, oh, look at your friend playing over there. Look at, get some tips from him. They play a lot of ball. Why don't you see if you guys can play together and you can learn a few things. Look how fast he's running. Look how he passes, yada, yada, yada. Trying to help her with tips and seeing how someone else plays and she can physically watch. But I think I should maybe adjust or curb that even, because she could be thinking that I'm comparing her gameplay to someone else's. And I don't really want to do that. I don't want to compare kid to kid. That's not really cool. So what are your thoughts on that? Opinion, thoughts, recommendations? Let me know. All right, number 4, provide more opportunities for young girls. Girls need to have as many opportunities as boys in school PE, after-school clubs, within the community, particularly in team sport. Opportunities must be visible, accessible, and create an environment where girls are genuinely welcomed and equally valued. Yes, agree. Like I said earlier, I think our area and our schools do have a good amount of opportunities for girls. There's still room to grow. I know my daughter's league is actually pretty small. The girls' league is pretty small, hence why they've had to play some really tough teams, I think, just because there's not enough teams to play. There's not enough girls in this category of experience to play, and then another one's in the higher level. So they're kind of having to go back and forth and play teams that are a lot more experienced than them, and I think that's kind of a problem. So yeah, there is room for growth. So I also know that some places have even less. So maybe I should just appreciate what we have here so far. Anyways, number 5, harness the school and after-school environment. Teachers, coaches need to invest in closing the skills and confidence gap between boys and girls. Use school to embed the right attitudes amongst boys towards girls in sport, so there's a greater appreciation, value, and respect for girls playing sports. I think that kind of already is happening. I don't think there's a negative vibe from boys on girls sports, from my opinion, but there it is nonetheless. And just a couple more from other sources before I wrap up this episode. Provide female mentorship and role models by increasing representation of female athletes, coaches, and leaders in the sports world. Finding those female mentors for girls to connect with, look up to, and inspire to be like. I think that's really important. I have noticed that both my girls, and I don't know if this is bad or good, but both of them seem to be more receptive towards female coaches. Maybe that's normal. Girls, with girls. I don't know why, but it is. My wife used to play basketball as well back in high school, and she knows a lot about it, and my kids really love that about her and kind of look up to her about that, so that's kind of cool as a role model aspect. Also, the whole Caitlin Clark thing, that blew up this spring. My kids heard about her and were so enamored with this woman, asking to watch games and see her on TV, and even if she's doing a press conference, they would tune in, they would see it. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. Great role model. Now that she's coming here to Indy for the Indy Fever, my daughters actually are really excited to hopefully get to see her play in a game. So that's something that's really cool. It's a great role model for my kids to have. Also, when my girls do the skill building and the basketball clinics through the school, they have a lot of high school girls teaching and assisting with them. And those kids are great mentors and role models for my children. So that's an awesome thing too. So if your school is doing that, great. If they're not, maybe ask them about it. Maybe say, hey, can we set something up? Can we do this? Lastly, empowering girls' voices and choices. Empowering girls to take ownership of their athletic journey and make decisions that align with their interests, goals, and values. They can choose their path. If they don't like one sport that you wished so much for them to, that's okay. Let them sample other team sports. Let them sample other things. Talk to coaches. Let them know how your kids feel about the game and what they may need. Encourage your girls to advocate for themselves as well and express their opinions. I think that will help build a better connection with the coaches. Let your girls talk to them. I need to let my girls talk to the coaches and kind of say what they need or what they may want or problems that they're having. I think maybe that'll open the eyes to some of the coaches even that they currently have. So that's something I need to try. It just seems like I think we've all witnessed kids of all boys and girls fall out of love with sports. And I really don't want that to happen with my girls. I'm not saying that they have to love sports, but I want them to enjoy them, to know that they have a team and a coach that supports them, play and excel, and still have fun, And I know I mentioned this at the top of the show, but doing stuff with your friends is important as well. And knowing someone is there that you can rely on and you can go in like a buddy system almost would help girls, help probably boys too, want to play the games a little bit more. They can rely on their team, they can rely on their friend, and just all around maybe make things a little bit easier. So anyways, yeah, that's all I have to say on that. All right, well, that is about it for today's episode of Stay at Home Dads Podcast. I hope I provided you with some interesting and helpful information if you've got girls that are in sports and maybe they're struggling, maybe they're not, but I hope some of this stuff will help you out in some capacity. I know, pretty link heavy today. Not a lot of personal stuff, not a lot of stuff that I really know about. That's because I'm here learning as well. Trying to make this chapter of my daughter's childhoods the best it can be. Also, one last quick link. If you're a coach, or if you're going to be coaching or rec coaching or whatever, and you need some more information, check out the Adidas link in the description. It gives a lot of insight and information, and it's actually a course on how to be a better girls coach. So if you want to check that out and take that little course, it's free. I found it somewhere just digging for information. I think it'll help. I'll read through it too. I think it'll help me, it'll help you maybe understand how to coach girls a little bit better. So if you're interested, check that out. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions or comments for me, you know where to reach me at stayhomedads_podcast or over on podbean.com. And let me know. Anyways, that's it, and I'll talk to you guys next time.